Thank you. Kat Timpf just made a #2. And it's a book, not a poo.
Oh my
That's
God.
right.
How do we know?
Kat's second book comes out tomorrow, and it's called I Used to Like You Until... How Binary Thinking Divides Us All. And if you don't buy a copy, we'll send you a copy of Jesse's book instead. Joining us now, the author and soon-to-be Motor City Mama, Kat Timpf. So tell us a little bit about why people should read this book. What can they learn from it? Why should people care?
Okay. Well, I think honestly, most of us want a lot of the same things out of life, and we just have different ideas for how to get there. And the best way to win over someone who you disagree with or who's different from you is to focus on what you do have in common. Because I think we're being conditioned to think that we have nothing in common with someone just because they're in the opposite political party. And that's just not true. And so this book is really a guide for how to connect. And a reason that we should want to do that is because we really have a lot to lose. And the division is a tool that the powerful government, the media, use to divide us. And when we're divided, we're a lot easier to control. So if you care about your rights and your freedoms, then you should definitely care about this.
It's a good point. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Was a good question. I agree. But you're right. It's like, I think the best tool for government ever was social media, because social media has amplified and accelerated the division. So we spend all of our times butting heads on social media than actually looking outward and saying, like, what is the government doing?
Yeah, and I think another thing about social media is that it takes away people's humanity. You don't see the people as humans. So what I've done in this book is I share a lot of, again, just like the last one, a lot of very personal stories in this book. And that's on purpose. That's because I think that vulnerability and being open is a huge way out of this mess. Because if you want to have, people see you as human, you have to be willing to show that you are a human. So I was like, okay, I'm going to share this story. I'm going to share that story. I'm going to share that story. And now it's all coming out tomorrow.
Yes. There is a story in there in particular. You talk about how people judge you based on where you work.
Yes.
And it has affected your personal life in certain ways. Would you like to, or do you want to just tease that story for people who read the book?
I should tease it. I mean, it's something that I've never talked about before. It's in the book. I talk a lot about personal relationships in the book in details that I haven't gotten into. But there was definitely an issue with me working at Fox. There's been many issues with people who just say, oh, you work at Fox News, that means you're boom, 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 boom. And it's like, I'm not special in that. I'm sure people who are watching have been through something where it's like, oh, you voted this way, well, now I don't want to talk to you anymore. And that's so pathetic, honestly. Politics makes us fight with people that we know in our real life on behalf of politicians who don't even know or care that we exist.
Yeah.
Last question?
Yeah.
How was your writing process different from your first book to this book? Because it seemed like this one just kind of came a lot sooner than the...
Yeah, I included all the stories that I was too scared to put in the first one.
Ooh, then that means that there are stories that you're too scared to put in the second book. Did you have to pull anything out?
No, I just didn't. I was like, we're doing it. Because it's like, you write it so far in advance, you're like, oh, that'll never happen. September's so far from now. And now tomorrow it's all coming out. But again, I really think it's such an important thing because we are in this place where we're just being divided and we're being manipulated and our rights are going to go away and our freedoms are going to go away while we all just scream at each other about stupid when really we should be united.
You know, it's interesting, too, that part of the book is you talk a lot about mental health, which actually, I mean, it's interesting when you're talking about connectivity and community. These are things that help mental health that we're completely neglecting. It's almost like the political binary thing is not good for people's brains. And you kind of talk about that in a personal level as well.
I literally share some of my diary from when I was having a mental breakdown in this book.
Yeah.
Because I think that we've never talked more about mental health. But our mental health is bad because we've also never shown less grace to people who are going through a mental health crisis. I think we're also going through a time where a single mistake defines a person. And I think that's the worst thing for somebody's mental health. You have to be able to say, oh, issues are often complex and nuanced, but people always are. And just because somebody made a mistake, that doesn't define the whole person. So I think that definitely
Greg.
That person made that mistake, now that person's in the category of bad. I mean, very rarely has someone done something so awful where that, for example, Ted Bundy, he needed to be in jail.
Right.
But making a comment that, that came out the wrong way, I upset people, that's not a reason that a person should not be able to exist in polite society anymore.
And we should show compassion to people who are nuts.
Yeah.
I think I was mentioned 9 times in the book. What can you do to increase the number in your next book? And you didn't have an index, so I had to go through and count it myself.
You had to go through. You had to read it.
Yes, I had to. Is that why you did it?
Yeah, because you usually just go through the index and read the pages that you're on.
Exactly.
And then you wouldn't have known what a wonderful, compelling book this is. But, and again, this is an entertaining read.
It is I would say it's a beach read, but we're entering fall.
Yeah.
So it's a book you would read by the fire. And the first chapter is a real banger, as the kids like to say.
Yes.
Because that involves a very interesting relationship.
He's not lying. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's very interesting.